All right, everybody, this is Level Up Luke. Welcome back to the Queen City Soccer Show. It has been a minute. I am joined by the host with the most, Cole Godfrey. Cole, what is going on, my man?
Not a whole lot at the moment. Just chilling at the house. What seems like the first time in probably a week and a half, 2 weeks, where I've gotten to just kind of kick it and take it easy and enjoying it, enjoying the time of just doing nothing.
So it feels like it's been forever since we've done one of these recordings. Um,
Yeah,
Basically, the League's Cup break, I think, was the last time we got together and talked about Charlotte FC and everything going on. Coming out of the League's Cup, everything was kind of crazy. The team came out flat after the break, and we were kind of off our game as well. I know you were out and about traveling on the West Coast, right?
that is true. Yes, went out to Seattle, Washington for a wedding, and it was a great time. Checked out a Mariners game, and then just kind of did the touristy stuff in Seattle, as far as like the Space Needle, the Pike Place Market, and did like some ferry boat rides. And then we did that for 3 days, and then we went out to Mount Rainier and did a bunch of hiking, a bunch of backpacking. That's actually where the wedding took place, was on Mount Rainier. So did all that fun stuff out there, and then yeah, I mean, my wallet got stolen out there the first day we were there. Getting back through TSA, coming back from Seattle was a blast trying to get through TSA. And but other than that, man, the Seattle, it was all right. I mean, it's to me, it was nothing really to write home about. But Mount Rainier was just one of the wildest and most beautiful things I've ever seen in my entire life. So the plan was to go to the Seattle Sounders Leagues Cup game. The overall consensus, because we went with a group of people, and the overall consensus was to go to the Mariners game instead. Obviously, I wanted to go to the Sounders game, but all the guys that were there and the girls, they don't really watch soccer or pay attention to soccer. And most of the guys that were there, including myself, all played college baseball, so they're big baseball guys. So they wanted to hit up the Mariners game, which we did, and I mean it was a good time. I can't take nothing away from it. It was very different from what I'm used to in Atlanta with the Braves, but it was a good time. They put on a show. They beat the crap out of the Phillies, which I always was ecstatic to see. And yeah, I mean it was a different atmosphere for sure, but it was a good time. I would have preferred to go into the Sounders game because it was literally the next day after the Mariners game we went to, but I got outruled and overruled.
I got you, man. Well, I'm glad you had a good time out there. I've been to Seattle a few times and I had a blast out there. I really enjoyed it. For some reason, I know there's a stereotype that the coffee there is somehow better. For some reason, I found that it really is, and I don't understand why. But the coffee does taste better out there. Um,
So we my wife made it a point to go to the original Starbucks, and we did. The line was absolutely astronomical, so we were planning to
I
go
bet.
back the next day before the Mariners game, and we got there and it was closed down because all the workers were on strike. So we didn't even get to go to the.
That's pretty typical, right? Seattle. Yeah, that makes sense. Is
You
that the one at Pike Place?
Yeah, that's Pike Place Market.
Yeah, yeah. So I drove by it and it didn't look too crazy when I was there, but I wanted to stop at that fish market. I've seen the videos of that and it looked pretty cool, but I didn't have time.
Yeah.
Um, Now I will say I liked Seattle a lot better than Portland. I was so underwhelmed by Portland. I mean, that looked like a disgusting city.
Yeah,
Maybe I just
you
didn't
know,
see enough of it.
yeah, and that's my wife while we were up there. The wedding photographer that was doing the shooting for the wedding we were at is from Eugene, Oregon, and my wife was like, "Well, I want to go to Portland. I want to go," and I was like, "I have no desire to go to Portland whatsoever, but I would like to go to Eugene and go to some of the national parks in Oregon because I mean they look just absolutely phenomenal." So I think what the plan is this next September. We've already got it booked, but we're going to Rocky Mountain National Park out in Colorado, and we're going to
Oh
go
yeah.
catch a Broncos game out there. We're going to try to plan it to go see a Broncos game, and I got a buddy that lives out there, so he's going to show us the ropes, and then maybe the next year we'll head out to either Yellowstone or Eugene, because that's the plan, is to once a year visit a national park.
That's awesome, man. I've heard great things. I've had several family members go out there over the decades, and I've heard nothing but good things. I might be heading out to the Denver area myself in the next year, and if I do, I have got to see a show at Red Rocks. That is on my bucket list. That is something I cannot miss. I got to see a show. I would love to see Trampled by Turtles at Red Rocks, but I'm not sure the next time they're playing it. But
So that's
enjoy, man.
hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious that you say that. Trampled by Turtles actually came to Greenville probably like 5, 6 months ago now, and we went to it, me and a buddy of mine, because we love Trampled by Turtles. I mean, obviously they're from
Hell yeah.
Georgia, and but we went and watched it, and I will say it was one of the best shows that I've ever seen. So seeing them
Oh
in
my
Red
God.
Rock would be incredible. I will say this: I have been to Red Rocks, and I did go watch a concert there, and it wasn't really my cup of tea. As far as it was Michael Bublé, who obviously Michael Bublé is just a phenomenal musician. And it was, I wasn't expecting it to be, but it's something about the venue that is just, it makes whatever concert or whatever you're seeing that much better. And it was absolutely one of the best shows I've ever seen. And Michael Bublé, just absolutely tore it up out there.
Killer vocals, man. Killer vocals.
Oh, dude, he's got a voice like. And there's very, very few people who have a voice like Michael Bublé.
Yeah, I know that's right. Yeah, I was supposed to see Trampled by Turtles a few years ago here at Tuck Fest at the Whitewater Center. And I forget what it was. It was either a weather delay or a cancellation, rescheduling, something like that. Um, there was some reason I wasn't able to see it. And then I ended up seeing a different band instead that was, they were great, but they weren't Trampled by Turtles. So I still have them on my list to see. They're playing at Ballantyne either this past weekend or this coming week pretty soon. But the tickets are like $75 for this Ballantyne venue. And I don't know, man, something about that just to see one band doesn't really sit right with me. But you know, uh, speaking of what's been going on lately, I mean, my schedule's been pretty packed with the real estate work and family stuff. My older son just started kindergarten, so we've been dealing with the school stuff and um, been pretty chaotic in my personal life, and mostly in a good way. But trying to make it to soccer games when I can. But I feel like I've been missing some Independence games and some. I mean, I don't remember the last time I made it to a Crown Legacy game. Unfortunately, just scheduling and having that be 45 minutes away, it just doesn't always work out on,
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon or a random weeknight. Um, but yeah, Charlotte FC, we came back from Leagues Cup. We had a series of kind of flat performances, flat results. And lately, we started to pick it up again. What have you been able to watch? Obviously, you were deployed up in Western North Carolina, and we're going to save that conversation for the next episode. We're going to do a special episode talking just about the Western North Carolina disaster relief. Um, South Carolina, I'm seeing friends saying they're just now getting power back in South Carolina. Eastern Tennessee, a lot of this area has been absolutely devastated. So we're going to talk all about it and bring folks accurate information that they can actually use, help sort out the fact from the fiction. But what Charlotte FC matches have you been able to watch lately?
Yeah, I mean, so, I mean, I got the opportunity to watch this past weekend, and I mean, I'll say, what was it? Who was, dude? I'll be honest with you, everything's running together right now. So the Montreal game, that wasn't last weekend. That was,
That
what
was
was that,
this past
Saturday?
one. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I'm losing my mind. I keep thinking today is Saturday. But yeah, so I got to watch the Montreal match, which was, I mean, I got to watch it on my phone, so. But it's great, and not only that, but just to see Karol Swiderski kind of taking this team by the horn. I think the last time we talked, or maybe the last spaces we did, which was after, I can't remember which game it was, but Uh, Carroll had not had a very good showing. He had a good showing since he had come back on loan from Veronis, and but I will say, man, you got to give credit where credit's due. I think this is something me and you both have said that. Look, man, if Carroll is doing well, we're going to give him props because that means this team is doing well. And so I'm here to just give props to Carroll, man. He's been balling out the past 3 or 4 games, and he's single handedly kind of dragging this team towards a better playoff finish. They're sitting in sixth right now. We're going to talk about the different possibilities who they could be playing in the playoffs. Obviously, Charlotte has clinched, which is phenomenal. Not hopefully we can we can have a good run in the playoffs, and Carroll can keep doing what he's been doing. But yeah, I've been able to keep up with it pretty. I would say somewhat pretty well.
So I'll just kind of give you guys a refresher. It's been a minute, and we don't need to dwell on these games because obviously our focus is moving on towards the playoffs here. But in Leagues Cup, Charlotte was waiting on the final match. It's three team groups, so the top two out of three advance, and we had to wait on the result of Philadelphia versus Cruz Azul. If Philadelphia won the match, then Charlotte would advance. Unfortunately, they threw away the game at the very end, and in a heartbreaking fashion, Cruz Azul tied. And with that draw, they advanced over us. We had one penalty shootout win, and Cruz Azul had two draws, a penalty shootout win and a penalty shootout loss. So Cruz Azul advanced. We did not. And then we had a month off. We went from July 31st to August 24th. So a solid 3 weeks and change where the team had a vacation in the middle of the season and they came back absolutely rusty. It was a home game against New York Red Bulls that ended in a 1-1 draw. That felt very disappointing to us. The goal on that one was a Charlotte penalty kick. So Swiderski got a PK, no goals in the run of play, and then Red Bull tied it up before half. That was a game that Charlotte felt like they should have won, but they did not. Next one, we hosted Atlanta. We lost 1-0. Once again, no goals in the run of play. Next one, Montreal at Montreal. And we have not had good luck in Canada or really against Canadian teams. Montreal scored twice early, back to back within 5 minutes of each other. I did not get to watch this one. I was
So,
otherwise
well,
occupied that evening.
not to cut in on you, but that's the match where we had the spaces afterwards because Tim Ream scored
Correct.
his goal, and we just looked absolutely atrocious in that match.
Yeah, and we have a few of these, I'd call them disaster spaces. At this point, Montreal was the first one where the venting and um, the anger, the instant reaction from the fan base, disappointment, hopelessness seemed to be setting in because there were no goals in the run of, or yeah, in the run of play. Tim Ream with the only goal off of a set piece, and Tim Ream gets on the board for Charlotte. So after that game, you have a lot of talk from kind of tongue in cheek on the Facebook group about maybe we should put Tim Ream in at striker because he can actually score. So, I mean, that's 3 games in a row with no goals in the run of play. Next up was Orlando on the road. And that one was 2 goals for Orlando, none for Charlotte. And that was another frustrating one. Um, I want to say 18th. That might have been a midweek game. I believe that was a Wednesday game on the road in Florida. And the next week we'd have a midweek game against Miami, also in Florida. But between the two, New England, and this was the get right game. So after Orlando, I did watch that one. I saw what everyone meant about Montreal. The team looked like a shell of itself. Um, I was at Belfast Mill in the French Quarter with several other Charlotte area soccer podcasters. It was like a little hangout. Danny Brams, Johnny Hayes, Danny Brackets, and we had such a good time, my man. We were at that Irish pub. I think we've been there before. I think I've taken you there. And we were playing darts. We were drinking some Guinness. Um, we just had a blast. It was such a good hangout. And then the game started, and it absolutely crushed us. The way the team 5 minutes into the game, I said, "Oh my Lord, we're not winning this game. There's no signs of life. They have no ideas." And I left the watch thing at halftime. We all just went our separate ways at halftime because there was no chance for Charlotte to win. Uh, Going into the New England game during the press conference, Danny Brams asked Dean Smith in the press conference, the fans are saying that the team is playing very boring. They have no ideas. What can you say to the fans who are saying that this team is hard to watch? And Dean took that personally. He must have lit up the team because they came out on the following Saturday against New England at home at the bank with a 4 goal explosion to destroy the New England Revolution. You had Liel Abada getting, you know, picking up where he left off before League's Cup break, 39th minute. Then you had Pep Biel, the summer signing, coming in, 65th minute. Patrick Ajuman, you got to call Pat for that third goal of the night. And then Kerwin Vargas, a name that we have not mentioned in a long time in a very productive way. So Vargas gets the backflip going, and this one was never close. New England gets a red card in the uh,
It was
second
in the
half,
70th minute.
70th minute, I believe. Yeah. So red card for New England, but the game was already out of hand. And this was one where it could have been 3-0 at halftime. This could have been 5 or 6 goals, but Charlotte was the only team that belonged on the pitch that day. And we needed that get right game going into Miami on a Wednesday to face the supporter field, future supporter field winners, the inner Messi Herons of Fort Lauderdale. And that one, did you have a chance to watch the Miami game?
Yeah, so that was actually on a Saturday. Yeah, that was the day after the hurricane hit.
Well, the hurricane missed Miami, made landfall in the panhandle of Florida, and was supposed to hit Atlanta and kind of miss us, but it tracked eastward. And our team avoided that by flying down to Florida, playing Miami, and coming away with a draw. Messi scores in the 67th minute right after Karol Swiderski in the run of play. So Swiderski exercising some of these criticisms that we've lobbed his way. This is a
Hmm.
game very interesting. The attacking momentum chart is probably 90% Miami. Charlotte is happy to play without the ball. They're happy to let the other team maintain possession and then slowly choke them out while they have the ball. So Dean Smith is controlling the ball without possessing it. And we see this as a return to form against the best team in the league. And this is where I think Dean is getting the idea going into the playoffs. Who would want to play against the Charlotte side? If we can frustrate Miami and force them into a lot of low percentage shots, um, you know, Suarez arguably should have had the winner at the death, right in front of goal, and he just skied it. He's not going to do that very often, but Kalina stood on his head, had some great saves. I mean, I know they scored a goal and I know it was a draw, but that's a draw that felt like a moral victory and it felt like a moral clean sheet to me with the way that we performed on defense. So with that, we come back to the bank, and that was this past weekend, about a week ago, on October 2nd. Yeah, about a week ago, we played Chicago at home, and that one
Yeah, that
was
was last Wednesday.
that was the Wednesday game. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, man, that game was so frustrating because Charlotte once again could have had 5 or 6 goals, and they completely controlled the entire game. It was never close. The final score of 4-3 does not do it justice. Um, Early on in that game, first half, you have Junior Urso, the Bear, scoring his first goal for Charlotte FC. Swiderski in the run of play and stoppage time with a brilliant goal. And in the second half, Liel Abada. Now, Chicago, they were never in this game. However, they end up with 3 goals, one in the first half from uh, Herbers. And then in the second half, you have two which, from my viewpoint and from the replays on the scoreboard, and from all of the fans in attendance, and from the players on the pitch, were both offsides, and neither of these went to VAR. So the crowd is chanting "Ref, you suck." What I've noticed is as soon as that chant starts, that team is not getting any more calls for the rest of the game. The ref takes that a little bit personally. Once you start chanting "Ref, you suck," it's all over for the home field advantage. But I mean, it had to be said. These refs, we haven't been here in a while, but it still stands. They're not being held accountable by MLS. There are no repercussions for this kind of behavior. They've instituted a system where you can go back for video review and you have a clearly offsides play. Not only do they not give the video review, but the ref with the microphone, where he can address the stadium and explain calls, does not explain anything, and in fact starts carting up players who are pointing at the video review board, which is clearly showing offsides. It's a farce. I don't understand it. This is not Inter Miami. I'm not expecting Chicago, last place in the East, to be getting calls like this. I have a hard time suggesting nefarious intent that they're just out to get Charlotte when the more likely explanation is that they're just incompetent. They can't do their job. So I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of the highlights from this goal, but I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, FC with a outburst of 4 goals, 2 home games in a row, and Karol Swiderski in form as one of the most effective strikers in MLS at this point.
I think Dean hit the nail on the head after the Montreal match, right, where he pretty much said who would bet against us, and it's similar to I view it as similar as like baseball or specifically like football, where a team that's in the wild card or a team that just is hot at the end of the season tends to make very long runs in the playoffs, and obviously, Charlotte's sitting in sixth place right now, but obviously we still have decision day where Charlotte could jump NYCFC for fifth, and if that's the case, they would be playing Orlando, um, and I wouldn't be too upset with that. If they stay in six, it looks like they'd be playing Cincinnati, and that's if Red Bulls doesn't jump Charlotte. So there's a lot of if ands and buts of situations that can happen. If Charlotte just takes care of business though, then and NYCFC don't get any points, then they could be playing Orlando City, which would be and finish fifth in the East, which would be, at the beginning of the season when the national pundits were picking us 13th, 12th, anywhere from 12th to dead last in the East, and to finish fifth would be just a beautiful, beautiful kiss of death for them.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't say it better myself. We have in the last 4 games 11 goals. Okay. Charlotte FC has not had 11 goals in a 4 game stretch in the entire season. And I don't know if they have in the team's history. I mean, this is
Yeah.
unprecedented, the performance offensively. And it was all sparked by a friend of the pod, Danny Brams from the Charlotte Soccer Show, calling Dean out in the press conference for an abysmal run. I mean, coming off the League's Cup, like I said, raw, lost, lost, lost. It was ugly, man. It was ugly to watch.
Yeah.
And then after getting called out, we are win, draw, win, win. 11 goals. And the only team that was playing us was Inter Miami. The other ones, it looked like we dominated each of these contests against lower table teams. Granted, I mean, it's good to come into your run of form against weaker opposition. I think that gears you up to play the better teams.
Well, I mean, you've seen it. I mean, right when you beat New England 4-0, the Miami match, you had your chances to win that game, and obviously they're about to be the Supporter Shield winners, and who's going to be the number one seed in the playoffs for the East. And you could have went that game, but you went toe to toe with them, and then you come off of that and you score another four, and then you come off of that and then you keep. More important to me, you keep a clean sheet against Montreal this past Saturday. So, obviously Carroll's in form right now. Pat's still doing Pat things. Liel pops up when he's needed. It's just they're hitting their stride at the right time, and
Yeah.
we'll see. Obviously, this weekend or yeah, this Saturday we'll be taking on DC United to end the season,
Actually,
and
we have a
DC.
bye week. So we're heading into a bye week and then DC. I don't like having the bye right before the last game of the season. I got to be honest.
Yeah,
That's bad
yeah,
timing
no,
to
no,
me.
no. Yeah, I misspoke. I was looking at the wrong date. Yeah,
All good.
so yeah, but I mean I mean regardless, I mean to end the season with DC, who is going to be fighting for their I mean, let's see, they're on 40 points in the playoffs. I mean, they're in the play-in game as of right now, and they're gonna be fighting. So you're gonna get their best shot, and Christian Benteke, is
Bane of our existence.
exactly, and he's the Golden Boot leader right now. So I mean, you can't take anything away from DC, and you're going up to DC, and hopefully you can go up there and get 3 points so you can finish fifth and finish a little bit better on the table. But like I said, DC is sitting in eighth right now on 40 points, tied with Montreal in that for that play-in game. Toronto, Philadelphia, Atlanta still fighting for their playoff lives. If DC or Montreal do not get any points and Philadelphia win or Atlanta United win, then they're going to get in that play-in game off a goal differential.
So I found a really interesting graph here, and I just sent it over to you. Looking at a stat graph between Christian Benteke and Patrick Ajman as the featured players for both teams, and they track very, very similarly. It's almost the exact same shape, with Benteke outperforming Ajman by about 10% on some of these metrics. And then Ajman being a little bit better on defense, although that's not a key stat for a striker. The rest of this is just going hand in hand. Patrick Ajman statistically very comparable to Christian Benteke. I think that's
Yeah,
interesting given the very different styles of play between the two. Uh, but yeah, DC United, it's also going to determine the Southern Championship winner. And I believe Charlotte FC has clinched the Southern Championship, which is a contest every year between our Charlotte FC, Atlanta United, Nashville SC, and DC United. And this is a official sanctioned uh, I don't know what you want to call it, championship belt that is presented. This is coordinated by the International Supporters Group Union, which Charlotte FC's supporters groups belong to. And um, so yeah, it's fan created, fan led, and Nashville has the belt. I took a picture with it when I went on the road to Nashville. They know that I care a lot about it, and I told them, "Hey, you better be ready to hand the belt over at the end of the year." So DC United gives us a chance to sweep all of the other teams in this competition for the season record, and that would secure the Southern Championship belt for us.
I
If you
don't
want,
understand personally how DC United is in that mix,
me neither.
geographically, but whatever.
Yeah, their supporters group must have lobbied their way into it as a DC supporters group would do inside the Beltway, as they say. But I'll tell you what, man, I would love to go to this DC United game, but there is something about going to Washington, DC right before a federal election that no thank you. Not for me. I don't want them
Yeah,
asking where was I on October 19th. I don't want to divulge that information. Um,
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'll stay in the Carolinas.
Yeah, man. Now, hey, fun sidebar. You mentioned Inter Miami was about to win the Supporters Shield when we played them. They did,
Mhm.
I believe, the next game they won the Supporters Shield, and very interestingly, the day after that, Major League Soccer and Don Garber announced that the winner of the Supporters Shield will be an official entrant into the FIFA Club World Cup from MLS. The Porterfield winner has never received this position ever in the history of MLS. But the
Right.
day after Inter Miami wins it, coincidentally, MLS decides that that is the title that is going to the Club World Cup. Uh, Man, what a crazy coincidence! Can you believe that?
I can. I can't. Unfortunately, I with how this league absolutely, and I get it to a certain extent, but I how this club just absolutely babies Lionel Messi, and again, I get it. It's Messi. He's the goat. Kiss the ring, all that nonsense. But at the same time, dude, we we got to me. I mean, you with just how prestigious this competition is, and the teams that are in it. The likes of Man City, Real Madrid, PSG. Um, you already have. I understand that it's being played in the United States, so you want to have a team, representing you. But the Sounders are already in it, so I
Yeah.
don't understand the purpose in this. If there wasn't a United States or MLS representative, then I could see them finagling their way into doing it. But you're already represented, man. Let's keep it fair.
I mean, and Miami can still win the actual title. They're still very much in contention. They're going to have a number one overall seed. They can absolutely win the MLS title. I don't think they need the additional help from Don Garber and MLS. And, the
Well,
sponsor in Apple.
just keep in mind though that the only way you get in is if you win the Concacaf Champions League, and that's the only reason the Sounders are in.
Oh, gotcha. I thought the winner
Yeah.
of the league also got a spot.
No, they get the spot in the Concacaf Champions League, but since they're a
Gotcha,
previous
gotcha.
winner, since the Sounders are the only winner ever, and they won it
This is the host spot
in
because we're hosting the
2022.
competition.
Yeah, so they won the
Yeah,
2022 Concacaf Champions League, so that's why they're in it.
got it. Yeah, and so then because we're hosting, we get an extra entrant, right? And that's what
Right,
Miami just
right.
got. That makes
Yep.
sense. Anyway, so one more game coming up in a week and a half here, and DC United should be afraid of Patrick Berwin Vargas, who scored recently. This team is fierce. They should be feared, and we're going into the playoff in a really good position.
Yeah. No, I mean I agree everything you just said. I think again, I think it goes back to being hot at the right time, specifically having your attack hot at the right time. We've seen that firsthand when Charlotte played Red Bull last year in the play-in game, right? I mean, obviously Elias Manuel, he just has Charlotte's number, but I mean they were just hot. I mean and I think it is massive for Karol Swiderski to be in the form that he's in, the form of his club career life at Charlotte FC, and it couldn't come at a better time.
So we have a listener question here from a troll on Twitter who has blocked my account, but still managed to reply to one of my statuses after the post-game spaces, demanding an apology to Karol Swiderski. So let me ask you, Cole, do you feel like you need to apologize to Karol Swiderski?
Absolutely not. It's one of those things. It's one of those things, man. Like I said, we've talked about it. We want Karol Swiderski to do well. Make no mistake about it. I want Patrick Ajimon to do well. I want Leo Labata to, because if these players are doing well, this team is doing well. But at no point in his return after Verona's that he looked like he was up for it. He was absolutely putrid in the final third, and I was not. I was kind of hesitant on just dropping Big Pat out of. I mean, for Carroll as soon as he came back, and didn't even play a game with the team and came straight back into starting 11 when Pat was, you know,
Clearly
I mean, he
informed,
was the
and he earned it.
yeah, I mean, he was the leading goal scorer on the team, and Charlotte. And not only that, but I'm on record as I didn't like the move of just absolutely dropping Andrew Privet and bringing in Tim Ream to mess up that center back partnership that he had with Adelson. And, but at the same time, I won't like again. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And Carroll has found another gear these past, 4 or 5 games. And I'm not going to apologize. This is what I expect of him. He is our DP striker. This is expected. This is not, and when he's not meeting expectations, he's going to be criticized. This is the way this world is. It's the way the soccer world is. It's the way any sports world is. If you're not meeting expectations, you're going to be criticized for it. He was not meeting expectations, therefore, and now he is meeting expectations. I'm not going to give him an apology. I'm going to give him a pat on the back and say, "Well done."
Now, you know who I want to give an apology to?
Who's that?
Dean Smith. In Dean we trust, man. But during that
Right.
slump, I was on record as saying lackluster summer transfer window, Pep BL coming in, showing early flashes, but not really capitalizing, not making the difference at the 10. Dean Smith early in the season, the first half before League's Cup break, we had solid defense, but we came out and just did not look like the same team after the break. And I said, he's playing these guys that are making the money, the guys that are splashy. He's throwing everything at the wall to see what's going to work with the lineup. Like I need to see more from Dean Smith as far as coaching to get this team back into form. So I want to apologize to Dean Smith for doubting him because he gave me no reason to doubt him. You threw a bunch of stuff into the mix with that summer transfer window, and I think after this we should do a deep dive on that window and talk about the individual moves. But Dean, I doubted your game, man, and you proved me wrong again. In Dean, we trust all the way. Uh, I credit Karol Swiderski's turnaround in the last few games to the Dean Smith effect of working with him in training, of working on new priorities. It's not a new skill set, it's positioning. And Carol talked after the game, after the Montreal game here, about how Dean has really pressed on him that he needs to be waiting in the right positions, further up the field in front of goal. And that led to his poaching goal. And I tweeted out, poaching is a legitimate skill set for a striker. Okay. It's not a dirty word. Those goals count just the same as every other. And if you're positioned right where you can just kick it back in off a deflection, hell yeah. And Swiderski going in for that bone crunching shot slash tackle of the goalkeeper to slam that ball home. That's what I want to see out of my striker. So credit to Carol for listening to Dean, who I'm giving my apology to. So cheers to the haters and the trolls out there. I mean, I'm going to keep on calling out players when they're not performing. And I love these players. And Swiderski, man, he has a lot of ground that he still has to make up to get into my good books. But I am more than happy to say when he's doing a good job, I will celebrate that. I will celebrate him because it means the team is doing well. And that's what I said in the pregame or the preseason. If Enzo Capetti is doing well, that means the team is doing well because he was our number 9. If Carol Swiderski come back on loan, I was hesitant because I didn't see it from him in Verona. But coming back, I said, if he's doing well, that means the team is doing well, and I want him to succeed. I didn't think he would, but he has changed his game. He has been humble. He has been a team player, and now he's showing that he's listening to the coach, and I am so happy.
Yeah, I agree with you when it comes to Dean. I'm still, again, it's worked out here recently, but I still don't like the messing with the center back partnership. Statistically, you had one of the best defenses in the league, and obviously that Andrew Privet was a big part of that. And I get it. I get that it's Tim, but at the same time, I was under the impression that he was coming in as a depth piece, and he was coming in, as somebody to be there to be that leader when he is on the field, but that leader off the field mainly. And again, he does bring the long ball. He does bring that to the table offensively, but it's worked out. So I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due, and again, it's got to be ending we trust.
Absolutely. And I mean, let me tell you what, this season, this coaching performance, I did not expect it going into the season. But the first half of the year, I think we skated by with some lucky results just on the back of how well our played and our center back pairing, Adilson Malanda, Privet, both getting new contracts. Let me ask you, man, we're still waiting on that Patrick Ajiman contract. Do you think it's coming? What do you think the future has for Big Pat?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Pat deserves it. It's I'm trying to think of how to put it. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can see is the reason he hasn't renewed or gotten a new contract is if they're planning on letting him go. And I
Yeah,
think that would be a massive, massive mistake. This guy loves Charlotte. He's on record as much how he likes Charlotte, the city itself, the fan base, playing for this club, and all he's done
super
is
draft
when you've
pick.
asked him to step, yeah, and all he's done is step up when you've asked him to step up as a young player who's still developing. And, I would just absolutely hate to see him go somewhere else in MLS and then just start tearing it up. And, Karol Swiderski decides he wants to go back to Europe. And, then here we are.
You know what's wild, man? I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now. I think it's because my AC just kicked on, but also just thinking about this. I see buzz and I see hype about Patrick Agyemang, not just on Charlotte FC corners of Twitter, on U.S. national team corners of Twitter,
Yeah.
where they're sharing his highlight videos and his insane goals and the way he takes on three, four guys at a time. And when he did that crossover in that Montreal game, like literally
Hmm.
just, I mean, the guy looks like a world-class player in some instances.
Yeah.
And hey, sidebar. You remember I told you I saw that TikTok video of the helicopter rotor watching the supply center?
Yeah.
They're showing it on NBC News right now.
Really?
So yeah, yeah, that's it. Anyway,
Mm.
um, we'll get to that in our special episode, which given the length and how much we have to talk about with Charlotte FC, we're gonna do a whole separate one just devoted to the disaster relief. But yeah, man, I mean, Patrick Ajman, I'm seeing the clips of him on U.S. men's national team Twitter, and the national team has a new coach. What happens when you bring in a new coach, a new administration? They want to bring in their own guys, right?
Yep.
You better believe Patrick Ajman is on the U.S. national team radar. And I'm also seeing, you know, disappointing or disappointed comments about, well, if he's on the U.S. radar, he's probably on Ghana's radar too. We hope the U.S. gets to him and captures him before Ghana does. So, yeah, I mean, there's a variety of factors in play. I guess it depends on what he wants to do and what his opportunities look like. But Ajman is the kind of guy, you can't teach size. You can't teach that kind of physicality and that kind of instinct on the ball. I think what you can teach with Ajman is polish and technique. And that's an area where he still has a long way to go. But if he can make those strides and make those advances, I mean, this is a European level player in Patrick Ajman. And that's my opinion, but I will stand behind that. I think if you get him the technique and the polish with that size and physicality, I'm not going to say sky's the limit, but I mean, that's a top tier player in MLS, let alone, I mean, probably a serviceable striker in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, and people got to understand too that he's only 23 years old. I mean, this
Yeah.
is a young guy. Still. He is still developing, and at the same time, but and you're right. I mean, it's national media as well. I mean, Bogert, who we've had on the podcast, he's part of the Ajimong Hive.
Yeah.
And
With good reason.
these guys, yeah, these guys love Patrick Ajimong, and the reason they do is because of goals like he did, like he scored against Montreal. He
Yeah.
brings something to the table that Carroll does not, and I think Carroll is a good poaching striker. I think Patrick can create. I think Patrick can take on. We've seen it time and time again this year. He can take on a player one on one. He can take on two players one on two, and come out the other side. Even if he doesn't score, but test the keeper.
Yeah.
Get that shot on goal. He's proved it time and time again, and he's only going to get better.
I mean, we talked about it in the post game spaces. I have it downloaded. I'm going to send over the file to you. So listeners will probably hear that post game spaces before they hear this episode. I talked in it, obviously, after a few beverages. I talked about this concept of arrogance and confidence. And what do I want to see in my striker? You want your striker to have an ego, right? You want your striker to be confident. It's vital. It is one of the most important traits that a striker can have. It's as close as the soccer world has to a quarterback in American football. You want them to be supremely confident. Arrogance is an interesting proposition because it gets painted with a broad brush pretty negatively. People talk about arrogant as if it's a bad thing. Um, I don't know your nerd cred on this, Cole, but you look at Dragon Ball Z, right? And you got Vegeta, who is supremely arrogant. And it starts out as a character flaw and becomes one of his greatest strengths by the end of the show. And I mean, obviously still going on, but then you have Goku, who is supremely confident without a shred of arrogance. And I would say, I mean, we've had strikers who kind of run the gamut, right? Capetti had that kind of Vegeta arrogance where it's I'm the best, but I haven't done anything to really deserve it. And Swiderski had a flavor of that same arrogance before his loan to Italy. So I mean, I am not a fan of that. I think that respect has to be earned. I want my striker to be confident, but you have to earn that arrogance. And Messi is an example of a guy who does not present to me as arrogant whatsoever, but he is supremely confident. And Patrick Agyemang has that confidence where he knows he can get the job done, but he's never going to rub it in someone else's face. He's never going to show you how great he is. He's just going to go out there, ball out, and perform. And the higher the stakes, the higher the pressure, the more confident he becomes because he knows who he is. He knows what he can do. He doesn't second guess himself. Call Pat. I love that. And Swiderski, since coming back, man, he's changed. He's more humble. And I hope this recent run of form will cement some confidence in him because when he's not confident, he's out of position. And when he's out of position, he doesn't get opportunities. So to me, I mean, confidence and arrogance go hand in hand, but man, they are so different as a character trait. Uh, let's talk about, what can we do as a team? Oh, Pepiel is another one. So Pepiel came out and he showed a flash right out of the gate when we signed him. A lot of technical ability on the field. He did a little back heel flip that had me bouncing out of my seat. The dude has arrogance, but it's born of I'm going to beat you and play better than you and demand your respect. I'm not going to settle for anything less. And so he still has off games, and he's not going to rub it in someone's face, but he has this very um, ever-present arrogance of uh, I'm better than you, and I know I'm better than you. Now watch me show you how much better I am. And that is the valuable arrogance that you need in a 10 or a 9 or really any of your attacking players. And so I found it fascinating to watch Pepiel and Karol Swiderski and just the different way they demonstrate those personality traits. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I don't know if I have something there or if I'm just completely off on a tangent here.
No, I mean, I agree with everything that you said. I see exactly what you're saying as far as the quiet confidence, and then the arrogance as far as you know. It's weird because, like you said, I mean, the two extremes we've always seen, right, is Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. You got Messi, who's kind of this humble, just go out there, ball out, and then go back home. And then you got Cristiano Ronaldo,
All
who
right, Ronaldo,
very outspoken, very
look at me.
flamboyant guy. Yeah, very very flamboyant guy who, make no mistake, is great in his own right. But they just go about it two completely different ways. And I think it has to be a fit in that system. It has to be. I mean, think about it. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, with the exception of 1 Euros, it hasn't worked for him on the national scene, on the
Yeah,
international stage yet. And and even in that tournament where they won, he was injured in that final. And I think that there's something to be, and not only that, but characters usually take on the characteristics of their coach. And Dean Smith is not a very flamboyant guy. He's a very he's a funny, quiet type of um, just like you said, walks with that swagger, that confidence, and his decision making and what he. Like, I mean, little things like he said this past week. Who would want to bet against us right now? And
Humble
it's things
brag.
like that, yeah, and that's how I see this team playing. That's how I see Karol Swiderski, Patrick Agyemang, Biel, Liel. That's how I see them all playing right now.
That's a really interesting point. I would even go a step further, and I'd say it's not just the coach, but it's the players that they surround themselves with. The way that our locker room has changed since Carroll joined the club, right? We had a younger, nightlife locker room that ran into some problems and demonstrated some characteristics that I really did not find appealing. You look at it now, we have a locker room made up of, Ashley Westwood as the captain, Tim Ream as the co-captain, and we haven't even talked about how we had Daddy Westwood, and now we got stepdaddy Tim Ream, and what that friction looks like, that awkward family dynamic. But no, I mean it's a completely different locker room, and this is a lot more professional, a lot more veteran led, and I think that makes a difference for the personality of the team. I think Vargas, interestingly, I mean, as he develops as a father, as a family person, maybe he can gain some of those traits and leadership abilities, attributes. I used to think of him as that energetic young guy who would feast upon a energetic young locker room like we used to have. And that's when we talked about him showing all the potential and the promise was when he was surrounded by young South American playmakers. And now, in this kind of older, more veteran led, a little more Eurocentric locker room, he has not been performing as well. I'm curious if there's a correlation or if I'm just, making something up here. I don't think either of us could know for sure, but that's just kind of striking me now as we're talking about it.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do as well with Dean Smith's type of scheme and how he has this team attacking versus how Latanzio had it. Latanzio's system had it a lot more beneficial for the wingers to get in and score versus Dean, where he's wanting that nine to get that goal. And I think that probably has something to do with it. But I think what you said has something to do. I think it's a mixture of a lot of different things that go into why a player is having not as good of a season as he did the season prior. And but don't get it twisted. Colonel Vargas is still a integral part of this team.
Absolutely. And I still think his potential is through the roof. He's still a
Yeah,
young
it is.
player,
It
still
is.
very talented. And I see him as a consistent starter for his national team. Um,
Yeah.
and I hope that means he remains a key component of the Charlotte FC makeup because I really love Kerwin Vargas. I just want to see the right fits at the right positions, and he's been struggling this year. So I think he needs to find a new role or a new gear, the way that Karol Swiderski seems to have been doing the last few games. And Vargas got that goal. I mean, he's that kind of guy that needs that confidence. He's not arrogant, and he seems to be struggling with his confidence. And if both of those are an issue for you, um, that's not good news for an attacking player. So I hope that he
Yeah, and I
finds.
will say, when it comes to Kerwin, I mean, he signed the new contract earlier this season. He's kind of was after Enzo left. He was kind of the main man, if you will, of the playmaker of everybody. The
Yeah,
flashy South American crossover, step overs, backflip after a goal. So a lot of eyes were on him and are on him, and I think I think he was that pressure to step up and be that main man kind of got to him a little bit, if we're
yeah,
honest. And it's nothing bad to say. It's just I don't think that he's also a guy, and we've seen it this season, when he doesn't hit that pass or when he doesn't
yeah,
hit the mark or hit the target, you see him visibly get down on himself. And that's just something as a young man he's going to have to, mature. And once he matures and realizes that, hey, look, yeah, it's like the Ted Lasso saying, "Be a goldfish." It's like
yeah,
the memory
yeah.
of a goldfish.
Exactly. Well,
And
that's a good
he
comparison. because he's a sensitive, more introverted type of person. That's the sense that I get at least. I know
Yeah,
when I've been in press conferences with him, I didn't even bother recording because I knew there's no way my mic could pick up his voice. So,
yeah,
I mean, he's quiet, he's introverted. He's a really good dude. He strikes me as just a genuinely good human being. And there's a place for everybody. We just got to find the right fit. I think the skill set for him is going to be to feast off of some teammates and maybe having Pep Biel. And I mean, I've said all season, his dynamic with Nathan Byrne coming up the side, I love that when they're on the same side of the pitch together because their interplay is fantastic. And I saw that again
yeah,
against, I think it was the Montreal game, where Vargas got back and made a huge defensive stop in Byrne's position because they had flipped, and it was beautiful. So I want to see more of that Vargas. And I think what he needs most is confidence. And part of the thing about the locker room changing, we brought in Pep Biel, another Spanish speaker. I'm just hoping with them playing in similar positions, being part of the same squad, and speaking the same language, and Biel having that flair and that arrogance, maybe some of them will help reinforce some of the traits within Vargas that made him special, that really brought that to our attention.
yeah.
Well, hey, we talked a lot about Charlotte FC here. We're coming in on an hour. Um,
I mean, I'm good with Charlotte FC right now. Let's take a look and see what happens. This weekend, and then obviously next weekend on decision day, and see what goes down.
Excellent. Shout out to the front office, man. They've been sticking it out. Congratulations to CFO Sean, who became the president of the Las Vegas Lights USL Championship team. Uh, Caleb Adams, I believe, has followed him with that organization, and we've seen some turnover within the front office because they're getting hired by other organizations who are seeing what we're doing here and appreciate it. So,
Yeah,
I mean, shout out to those guys.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, Sean obviously been on the podcast before. He's still, I think he posted today or whenever Charlotte clinched playoffs that Charlotte clinched and Las Vegas clinched. So I mean, he was still posting about Charlotte. You can tell that they still have a special place in his heart.
Hell yeah. And shout out Caleb. I just saw him on the Top in 90 podcast or a YouTube show. I think they're just on YouTube. Um, and it was really good commentary, and he was kind of talked about the difference between when you are working for an organization, it's not just what you can say, it's the way that you have to frame and approach things versus when you're no longer working from them and you can be a fan, how that changes your perspective. So, shout
Yeah,
out to Caleb. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with him, just, you know, moments between in the press conferences and around the organization. He's always done such a good job. So, CFO Sean, when you're the face, you take the most heat, and I think undeservedly he took a lot of heat from fans over things that he couldn't necessarily control. But both those guys, bigger, better things. Let's talk about, I mean, USL one, man. We got Charlotte Independence, Greenville Triumph, and it is coming down to it, man. I have never seen a league race like this, a playoff race like this, where everybody is clustered so tightly together. I mean, statistically, I guess it's bound to happen at some point, but USL One is pretty crazy right now. Have you had a chance to look at that?
so I did get to watch the Triumph Lexington game, and where the Triumph did clinch playoff spot, and shout out to Sebastian Velasquez with an absolute rocket of a goal, one of the best goals you'll see anywhere. If you haven't seen it, be sure to go check out that highlight because there was a Lionel Messi esque left foot just wonder goal to kind of seal that playoff spot for the Triumph.
Oh yeah, that might have been the game because I know Independence played Friday night. I was working on a supply run. Well, what would that have been? I think yeah, Friday,
Yeah, that, yeah, that'd have
Sunday.
been Friday, October the 4th.
Yes. So I was doing a supply run, and I looked at my map, and I'm like, I think I can get back by the second half. And with the traffic and the situation coming back, that clock kept going up and up, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go home. I got home and I was like, damn it, I could have made the entire second half making the time I did on the back end once I got to South Carolina. Um, but anyway, it didn't happen. It's fine. Charlotte Independence still, they had a disappointing result. They took a loss to Forward Madison. Very good team, sitting second in the table. If they have a drop in form, Charlotte could be in play for second place, but really, I think they control their destiny for third place. That would third and fourth place both host a home playoff game. So Charlotte Independence really want to make as high as they can, 9 points in the last three games. They play NC Hailstorm, who's currently in third place. That's a 6 point game. Greenville Triumph will have a lot to say about that positioning. Right now, sitting 1 point ahead of the Independents on the table. This has been so fluid between Union Omaha, Ford Madison, Hailstorm coming on lately, but I mean, they weren't really in the race. It was mostly Greenville Triumph and Charlotte Independence trading first and second place, while Union Omaha had games in hand. So the USL League One has been chaotic all year long, but I mean, to me, the teams to watch out for obviously the Greenville Triumph, Union Omaha, Charlotte Independence, and right now I would not bet against Ford Madison. Um, but Omaha looks pretty tough to beat. So um, I'd say those are probably the top four teams. Hailstorm, I just don't buy it. Like I've seen some of their games this year, and I just don't. I think they came on hot lately, but they're not going to last in the playoffs. Um, three spots below us. Independence and Greenville have both clinched playoff spots, but we're both looking for those home contests. So let's keep an eye on what's going on there. Carolina Ascent remains undefeated, I believe. Let me pull up the Ascent's record here and we can just talk about it. Have you had a chance to see any of this USL Super League so far?
So they're the home opener or the league opener, I guess. I did
Yeah,
watch it,
both.
and was absolutely, the kits, the style, the play on the field. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal.
Hell yeah. I was there. I was present in person. I was under the weather, and so I didn't really engage or try to do too much from a media point of view. I was mostly taking it in, getting some photos and some content. But that was pretty crazy. They played DC. It was a 1-0 win, sellout crowd. The first sellout soccer crowd in the Carolinas in 40 years. It was incredible. And they honored a championship women's soccer team from the past. I think it was a Dallas team from the 90s, I want to say. And they were basically the precursor to the U.S. women's national team. So really honoring the history of the game and the way that we have such support. I mean, the crowd for that game was so different from an Independence game or an FC game. Obviously, there were more women fans, but I was shocked at how many men were there. And I've been watching women's soccer for 15 years or so. Um, I started watching the U.S. men's national team. That's how I got into soccer, kind of. Um, but I really could say that I fell in love with the sport watching the women's game because the technical ability, the play style, it is it's physically slower, but it's not any less passionate. They go so hard and they play the game so well. Like it blows my mind, and it feels like I'm watching a different sport, like the difference between college basketball and NBA basketball. But that doesn't make it worse. Like I love college basketball, and I can't watch the NBA. So I view those as almost different sports, and that's how I feel about women's soccer versus men's soccer. Women's soccer is so passionate, so much fun to watch. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Like check your ego at the door, guys, and just enjoy what is in front of you, and it is so rewarding. Um, so I love that we have the Ascent, and they are, I believe, still undefeated. Yes, undefeated. So win, draw, win, win, draw, draw. They're killing it, man. They have not lost a game yet, home or away. So shout out to the Carolina Ascent, the best kits in USL Super League. All the games are streaming on Peacock, which has a free tier, so you can watch these games for free on Peacock, I believe. And I can't say enough good things about it. Uh, what a team, what a squad to watch. And let me give a specific shout out to Vicky Bruce. I believe she's the captain, but I mean, what a baller. Um, Carolina Ascent, man. I get tagged in all of the president of the club's posts because I'm part of the media or whatever, but um, I that helps me keep tabs on it, honestly. Um, as I'm getting lost in the shuffle here between Independence, Crown Legacy, FC, and Ascent. It's a lot of games, but every time I see the Ascent, like I try to follow along with the game cast, even if I can't watch live, and it just brings a smile to my face, man. I love to see a Carolina team dominating and topping the league. They're currently sitting on 12 points on the league table, 3 wins, 3 draws, and they're playing the third place team in the league next, Brooklyn FC. I've been told Brooklyn FC is sponsored by Liquid Death, and they have really cool uniforms. And I hate that because I don't want to like a team from New York City, but that might be one I have to catch. Let me go ahead and transition us on over here to MLS Next Pro. And I mentioned earlier, man, I have not had a chance to really take in very many Crown Legacy games. It's been, I have season tickets. I would love to get out to more games. They play in Matthews, which is great for people on that side of town. Being in South Carolina, it's about 45 minutes away from me. Uptown Charlotte's 20 minutes. That difference you know, makes a difference. So currently we have Crown Legacy, which played their final home game this past Sunday. Another game I was unable to attend. So I hate that. Last time I saw them play, I think was in May, first half of the year. And um, I've been following them from afar, man. Some of the first team players have been getting appearances. You got guys like Bill Tuoloma, Georgie Marks, that have played there. Ben Bender, when he's coming back off an injury, played there, got some time. Um, lately, I mean, we have Tokomati, who we acquired as basically a MLS Next Pro player, but with an eye towards the first team. We have guys in the development pipeline that are local North Carolina players. I know we signed a player, I think a goalkeeper from the Triangle area with a guaranteed first team contract as part of his Crown Legacy contract. So you love to see it. Let me just take a look here. Crown Legacy has not been performing at the same level this season as they did when we had the dominant teams of the past. But they're currently sitting in eighth place. Carolina Core up in the Triad, they're in 10th place, last place in the league. So it's tough, man. Not I'm sorry, not last place. Crown Legacy is in eighth place in what's called Group A. Carolina Core is in 10th place out of 15 teams. And then there's a 14 team Group B. So going into the playoffs, I believe we are in playoff position with Crown Legacy, but it is pretty tight right now. I'm going to live look up here MLS Next Pro playoffs. Yeah. What's our MLS Next Pro playoffs? What is our standing here? Eastern Conference, we are squeaking by in the eighth position, and this is the final seeding. Crown Legacy has made the playoffs. Excellent. And there's only 3 points separating in the Eastern Conference, third place from eighth place. So there are 5 teams within 3 points for that Eastern Conference qualifying. And that is incredible. And what a bunch up. It's like that USL one table for the playoffs. Cheers.
Yeah, and after the way the Crown Legacy seasons went, is to me it's an absolute miracle.
Can I tell you something, Cole? This might blow your mind, man. 2024 MLS Next Pro Golden Boot Award has been awarded. And you know, and I know the winner of the 2024 MLS Next Pro Golden Boot. We know him. He plays for Chicago Fire. David Poreba, former
Really? I
Crown
didn't know that.
Legacy. We traded him to Chicago Fire, but right before the season started, David Poreba wins the MLS Next Pro Golden Boot Award. 21-year-old midfielder with 18 goals. My God.
Mm,
Poreba,
yeah.
absolute beast, man. Like this was our one of our like the heart of our team. He was not a star player for Crown Legacy in a team that was filled up with current first team roster players, but he was the heart and soul, man. And he proved it wasn't just that. He is an actual baller. 18 goals on the season from David as a midfielder. I mean, that dude was like the captain. He was the leader. He's going places. So I'm so happy for David. Congrats with the Chicago Fire. And dude, the final seedings for the playoffs, the pick your own opponent selection process is going to be live streamed tomorrow, October 8th. So folks listening to this, you're probably not going to get this in your feeds before then, but 2 p.m. Eastern, follow me on Twitter at LVLUP_Luke. I will try to live tweet this draw process at 2 p.m. Eastern on October 8th, and we can react to it from there. The way that MLS Next Pro works is in the Eastern Conference, the number one ranked team will get first pick, and they can pick their opponent for the first round of the playoffs. And like I said, there's a 3 point difference between third place and eighth place. So the team in third place might have gotten some fluke wins and not be as good as the eighth place team. So it leads to some very interesting matchups. Cole, what do you
Yeah.
think about that selection process?
I've never heard of anything like it.
And it's all on a live
I
Zoom
mean,
call, so they can talk smack to each other too, which happened last year. It was pretty awesome.
yeah, that's awesome. It's just it's American AF.
Dude, it feels like gym class. Like you remember in like when you were in school in gym class and you pick your teams?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just picking the players, it was like there was like a social element of like, hey, I like this guy,
Yeah.
hey, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
It feels like that.
It does.
I feel like Columbus did that in the first round last year. I think it was Columbus Crew too. They called out another team that was high ranked. And the other team was like, hey, wait, why are you picking me? And they're like, oh, we want to play the best so we can beat the best because we want to be the best. And I mean, just the smack talking can be great. And then Darius for Crown Legacy just kept it professional, kept it business like. And he's like, you know, we're not taking this personally. It's just a business trip. They won that game and then lost to Crew Two. Crown Legacy with 30 shots and Crew Two with I think 2 shots on the game, but Crew won on 1-0 final score. One of the
Yeah.
most lopsided, unfair games I've ever seen in my life in terms of final score. The officiating was fine, but Crown Legacy just couldn't hit the goal to save their life and dominated the entire 90 minutes. But that's not enough, man. Um,
Nope.
I'm rambling at this point. We're just kind of going on. So we talked about USL One. We talked about USL Super League. We talked about MLS Next Pro. What do you got, man? Cole, any other topics for today, or are we going to call it?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm all good on my end.
All right. Hey, shout out to everybody who joins us for the post game Twitter Spaces. I'm going to try to publish the most recent one for the Montreal game. I'm going to send that over and try to get that uploaded. But you can join us on my Twitter feed at LVLUP_Luke. Excuse me. After the games, usually anytime from 45 minutes to an hour and a half after the game, I'll make an announcement. I'll put out a post that says, hey, here's when the spaces is starting. It's like your favorite call-in show. It's like Feinbaum, right? Like I just started up. I give you the intro, and then I let the listeners tell me what you thought, what you felt, and we analyze and work through everything together. It's a fun space. It is a uh, very in the moment space. So when you listen to these recordings, don't take it personally. Most of us are having beverages and just kind of venting and saying what we feel. in the moment. That might change after we have a chance to sleep on it. So it's fun. It's cathartic. And if you need that in your life, join us. And we have a separate side chat just for that group of folks. Cole, what else do we need to plug, man? Because I'm rusty. I haven't done this in forever.
Yeah, no, man. Just be sure to give the podcast a follow on Twitter at QCS Pod, Instagram at Q or at Jesus, I don't even remember anymore.
UCS Pod
Um,
underscore.
yeah, underscore. Yeah, and then obviously, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, be sure to give us a 5-star review,
Hell yeah.
share it with your friends, and yeah, I mean, we're like Luke said, it's been a while since we've done an episode. Um, I promise you that we're going to get the spaces out from the Montreal game. This will be out. Like he said, we're going to have a completely separate episode that's going to be not soccer related. It's going to be specifically related to Hurricane Helene and how we can help out with it and the things that have been done to help out with it. And yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, just again, just be sure to go to YouTube as well and give us a follow there because Luke does post stuff there and TikTok.
TikTok. Hey, I posted a video of the Hurricane Helene relief effort. That just some of the things that we were doing, and it was the biggest video on our TikTok account ever. Um, I'm hoping that we can share not what we're doing to try to make anybody feel bad about yourselves. I want to encourage people. The reason that we post these things is to show each of us are individuals, but an individual can make some difference. You can do something
For sure.
that will absolutely make somebody's life better. And if we all do that together, we can make a pretty damn big impact. And the one thing, I mean, I don't know why, like, I should be turning it over to you right now because you see this every day. But just for me, I don't get to see it in my everyday life. So it's hit me so strongly over the past week, just trying to do something, trying to get out and make a difference. The amount of people who will support you and want to see other people succeed, even if they're not willing to do it themselves, the collective difference that we can make is enormous. And it just absolutely staggers me to see the amount that people care about other people. We can really come together. We can really make a difference. So, Cole, thank you for everything you do every day, man. Thank you for everything you've been doing the past few weeks. And I would urge everybody listen to our special episode that we're going to put out here about Hurricane Helene relief, about the disaster effort, and please share that with your friends and family. Even if you don't care about soccer, even if they don't care about soccer, we're just going to try to tell you what you can do, what you need to know and dispel the misinformation because there's a lot of bullshit out there right now.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. I
Cole,
mean, yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, please do continue to, I guess, like Luke said, I mean, he was rounding up supplies at Hop Fly this past weekend, taking truckloads to the designated area down here in Greenville at the downtown Greenville Airport to get up to Western North Carolina. Because again, we're going to discuss this on a separate episode, but just continue to do so. We will make sure that it gets to the right place, and uh, just continue to keep those people in your thoughts and prayers because they are going through a lot up there that is not been seen in that area ever, and has not been seen in the southeast in a very very long time.
hey, couldn't have said it better, man. And if you're wondering how you can help, I think we're going to post some links to organizations that are accepting volunteers, places that you can donate your funds. It is shifting right now. They don't need food and water. There's a lot of that. There's way too much of it. There are warehouses full of food and water. What they need right now are emergency supplies. They need work equipment, hazmat suits, cold weather gear, camping equipment, sleeping bags, tents, tarps, cell phone battery backups, the things that you would need if you haven't had power for a few weeks, or if you were trying to help people in a disaster zone. Okay, the food and water is coming in. That's great. It's always appreciated. the pet food. It's coming in. Everybody cares about the pets here in the U.S. I mean, that's huge. But they need feminine hygiene products. They need baby supplies. They need first aid kits. They need Benadryl because when you, shockingly, when you uproot hundreds of thousands, if not millions of trees and sweep everything away in water, when that recedes, the yellow jackets don't really like it very much.
I will say
Shocking.
this. I will say this about just a little bit of the time up there as far as the Yellow Jackets go. So again, we're going to discuss this later, but just real quick, the amount of trees. I don't think that the average person or anybody who hasn't been there um, can fathom the amount of trees that went down. And I cannot tell you how many times we would get to a tree to cut up and just be absolutely swarmed because again it is they are everywhere. They're fine, definitely these pine trees, man. It was it was insane. So yeah, just mainly right now I think the big thing is like you said is I think what they're asking for is cold weather supplies, mainly jackets, hoodies, thick socks, leggings,
Work
joggers,
gloves,
whatever.
boots.
Work, yeah, anything warm weather or cold weather because as y'all know, it's Western North Carolina. It gets colder up there a lot sooner than it does anywhere else, and I think even this week, at the end of this week, it's supposed to be getting down into the 40s. So, and
Yeah.
there's a lot, and I say when I say a lot, there is a lot of people without power and without heat. So, do if you can, please do.
There's a saying, from those with ability to those in need. And we
Yep,
are in that situation right now, y'all.
yep.
Got to come together. All right. I think, I hope that does it for us for now. Stay tuned to your feed. We're back up and running at this moment. We'll see what happens. Just keep in mind, Cole is a firefighter. His schedule varies greatly. Um, I have a flexible schedule, and that means that I got to fit my 60 hours of work into wherever I can fit it in the week. So, I mean, I have time for interviews and covering Charlotte FC, but those, it comes at weird times. So make sure to follow us on social media at QCS Pod. We are the Queen City Soccer Show. As always, it is for the crown. And
Together we triumph and up the jacks.
and now more than ever, I think we need to say, with everything going on in Western North Carolina, in the mountains, together we ascend.